Yeah. Got me in
Hey, what's up everybody? Primus22 here, bringing you another Q&A. Now, I've been gone for a while and my schedule has been all messed up, so there's a link in the description to a twit-long that explains everything. And also, I've been sort of holding back because, since my upload schedule is messed up anyway, might as well when I come back with a bang with a video that I've always wanted to do. And so I've been working on this huge, giant video that's supposedly going to come out in August, I'm planning on. Yeah, it's a huge video that I'm working on. So keep an eye out for that. But uploads are going to be pretty scarce until then. But it's going to be... I think it's going to be worth the wait. But now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the questions you guys asked me. Let's take a look at the top rated question, and why would this be the top rated? Twisted, what are you doing? Twisted! Do you like cookies, and if so, what kind? I like a lot of different types of cookies, but there's also a good variety that I really don't care for. Ones that I like include things like chocolate chip cookies, including Chips Ahoy's original cookies, and I like sugar cookies, peanut butter cookies, stuff like that. Also the type of cookies that are chocolate covered with peanut butter, and now I'm hungry, great. Yeah, those kinds of cookies. Has any bot shown signs of having a kink, like the sexy kind? Alright, so Twisted's back at it again. Well, I'm sure there are more than one, but one that comes to mind is Night Scream of Jokus 514.31 Gamma, who certainly enjoys cross-dressing a bit too much. Is the Transformers More Lore spin-off series dead? The short answer is yes, however I still take questions asked in the comments as subjects for self-contained lore episodes themselves. This way questions are still being answered, and those who have similar questions can have a video with a title that they're looking for instead of having to dig through a backlog of more lore videos. What is the best starting point for someone wanting to get into the IDW story? They made a lot of short disconnected stuff before they made the serialized comics, and it's difficult to sort all that out. I'm going to preface my answer with this. I might not be the best person to answer this question because I'm in the minority with my philosophy on how to get into IDW. And my philosophy is sort of built around, how obsessive I get over continuity. I get more obsessive to the point than most people do, but with that said, let's get into the question. In the description of every video I've had since about 300 subscribers, I can't remember, is a link to a spreadsheet I've made that is the entire reading order for the IDW universe. I made it as a thank you to my subscribers, and I update it every week with new releases. I will always recommend reading everything, and reading everything in chronological order, the order it actually happened in. On reading everything, again, I recommend reading everything if you truly want to get into the universe. This all-or-nothing approach is very, very, very expensive, and I don't know how feasible it really is because when I started reading the IDW universe, it was 1. Only Transformers, and 2. Only had 5 years of comics, with most of those comics being contained in miniseries. From then on, I just bought new releases week by week. Today, it's a different story as the IDW universe has expanded into multiple interconnecting properties and over 600 issues going on 700. A full continuity that we previously didn't even think of happening in the IDW universe has been revealed to be part of the continuity as well, that being Hearts of Steel. Transformers also only makes 54.3% of the IDW universe, and there are some people who will just turn away from anything non-Transformers related, which is a shame since the other half of the content that's not Transformers is, for the most part, of the same caliber of quality as the Transformers branded comics. Yes, I did the math for this video, link to the full breakdown is in the description. But yes, as unfeasible as it might be for new readers, I recommend going down the spreadsheet. Part of the reason I make Transformers lore is so new readers can get caught up on the backlog of upcoming releases, so that they can support the franchise going further. This is partly the reason why there's such an IDW bias on the channel, but it's also partly because it's a deep and well-written continuity, and I do think reading everything is worth it in the long run. You tweeted you agreed with Ultra Magnus on Megatron. I agree more with Rodimus. Why do you think this way towards Autobot Megatron? For those of you who don't know, this is referencing a scene in Transformers Lost Light number 7. Transformers More Than Meets the Eye and Transformers Lost Light always had a shaky, inconsistent writing. At times it was the highest quality and the best Transformers had to offer, and at other times it created continuity rips and was cliched, pandering, lazy, and empty. I have a strong love-hate relationship with James Roberts' writing as a whole, and I think he's brought both some of the best stories and some of the worst stories Transformers has to offer. How he's handled Megatron so far might be the worst feat in his writing yet. I want to make this clear, I have no problem with the idea of a, quote, Autobot Megatron. It's a concept that lends itself to having the potential of becoming a great story. In fact, I think it's an idea that's hard to mess up, seeing how many interesting things you can do with that concept, and more specifically, his redemption arc. And the reason this would be an interesting concept is because Megatron of IDW is one of the few characters in all of existence who can never be redeemed no matter what. He's that evil. However, James Roberts has managed to screw up in so many ways his handling of the whole Megatron element in his work, and this scene is the ultimate culmination of the faults of the latter half of More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light have had in that story arc so far. In fact, let's do a dramatic reading of this scene. It's okay to miss him, you know. I've been thinking about this a lot since we've got back. During the war, he did awful things, and yes, in the end, even after we'd given him a second chance, he screwed us over and did a runner. But in between, he felt bad, and surely that's enough. We need to respect his pain and how he chose to process it. At the end of the day, he was a good person. He just kept forgetting how to be good. What? No. A good person who forgot to be... No! Feeling bad doesn't magically erase millions of years of warmongering. He used us, Rodimus. We trusted him and he abused that trust. Because that's what he was, a serial abuser. He tricked us, he tricked me, his repentance was a sham, his guilt is an affectation, his tortured soul, the killer's remorse, it was a lie. He wore his contrition like a shining crown because he knew it would distract us. A good person who forgot to be good? Wake up, Rodimus. He was evil. He was always evil. I hope he rots. I hope he burns. I felt Ultra Magnus' speech here was the first bit of common sense in this entire crew who have been acting extremely out of character, what with the whole allowing Megatron to be in their ranks in the first place. I wish I could say I sympathize with Getaway's troops, but they've been acting out of character with this whole betraying their friends deal. Roberts has no idea how to handle these characters. Of course, we know the whole bit that Megatron tricked them to escape is false, but even then, the core message of Magnus was absolutely correct. I wasn't even done clapping for Magnus when Rodimus, or really Robert, since he seems to fail at giving characters their own distinct voice, has the audacity to act all condescending, and say that he made Ultra Magnus pick an extreme, and even implies that Rodimus actually meant what he said about Megatron. Let me tell you who Megatron was, since most people I see accepting Megatron in the fandom are people who've only read more than meets the eye. In this continuity, Megatron is worse than Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, and any other autocratic, oppressive, mass-murdering dictator of your pick combined. This is Megatron, the one who started a 4 million year long war. This is Megatron who developed the infiltration protocol that included creating Phase 6ers and destroyed countless planets, including planets that house lives. This is the Megatron that killed Fastback in front of Bumper to interrogate him, and then proceeded to rip Bumper's head off because Bumper called him a psychopath, shocking all the Decepticons in the room, murderers and criminals in their own right. This is Megatron, the Megatron who ignored the pleas of his scientists as their world was dying, the Megatron who forced scientists into extreme experiments that backfired and turned Cybertron into an inhospitable wasteland. This is Megatron, the Megatron who experiments and tortures others without caring the world or the people he hurts. This is Megatron, the Megatron who threw away his ideas of equality on the killing fields of Junkion that turned Decepticonism into the idea of survival of the fittest, that is, social Darwinism. Social Darwinism, mind you, was the same ideology that helped fuel efforts like colonialism, and later on the eugenics program of the Nazi regime in Germany that led to the Holocaust, but of course, this is all child's play to Megatron. The Nazis had 12 years in power to enact their crimes. Megatron had 4 million. This is Megatron, the Megatron who repeatedly had plans to nuke his own planet into oblivion in order to defeat a rogue scientist experiment gone wrong that he had inadvertently created. This is Megatron who unleashed Trypticon on Cybertron and speared a Titan, one of the holiest figures in Cybertronian society. This is the Megatron who orchestrated countless amounts of pogroms, that is, riots aimed at the massacre of specific ethnic and religious groups. This is Megatron, the Megatron who once did win the war, and for a bit conquered Cybertron, and upon taking over, threw away his propaganda ideas that Cybertronians were equal and began an oppressive, military, fascist-esque dictatorship. This is the Megatron that orchestrated the invasion of Earth and walked the streets of New York with a maddened smile on his face, while the bloody remains of humans laid on the ground. This is the same invasion that saw over 10 million Chinese die and who knows how many more Americans, Israelis, and other countries on Earth. This is the Megatron that attempted to nuke New York City as well. This is the Megatron who ruined the relationship between humanity and the Autobots. This is the Megatron who turned his foes into ash. When Megatron wandered up to Iacon after the war, he was greeted by Bumblebee and a group of Autobot soldiers, and Bumblebee had every right to say no, this doesn't happen, not in my city, and should have killed him then and there until the Decepticons stopped him. Of course, even in that moment, Megatron had already still been setting up his plans into motion that involved the disfigurement of the aerial bots, the mind control and possession of Prowl, and ended with Iacon being ripped apart and Wheeljack's head shot off from his body. And it's not so much long after that that he supposedly had a change of heart? No, at the end of the day, Megatron is a war criminal, a dictator, an abuser, an ambitious opportunist, a fascist, a racist, a social Darwinist, a murderer, a traitor, a propagandist, a tyrant, and everything he once stood against, and worse than that, thanks to his fervor and activity that spanned 4 million years. Megatron, to objective levels, cannot be redeemed. If you want a well-written story of redemption that fits the continuity and is not out of character, read Optimus Prime and the comics that come before it, because what John Barber has been doing with Soundwave is much better. Have you seen Transformers The Last Knight? And if so, what is your opinion about it? I have generally been a fan of all 4 previous Bay films. I don't necessarily think they're good, but I enjoy them. And yeah, I'm a fan. Transformers The Last Knight is the first film in the Michael Bay franchise that I legitimately did not enjoy. The amount of things in the Transformers multiverse that I don't enjoy is very small. The only things I can think of off the top of my head right now are Mass Mobile Armored Strike Command and Machinima's Combiner Wars. Maybe I need more time and it will grow on me, but as it stands now, I did not enjoy it overall. Now, of course, as with any movie, there were parts I liked and parts I disliked, but again, last night was the first one that I came out of the theater just sort of upset. Are you a lesbian? Not to my immediate knowledge, no, but you know, anything's possible. Why did Oo start your channel? Well, originally the channel was made to store my stop-motion stuff, which are terrible and are currently unlisted. And then I took a break from YouTube, and eventually I came back and did some games, but then I took a break again. And then by 2015-ish, I was pretty much depressed and had nothing to do. And I went to TFCon 2015, and I realized that the Transformers fandom was larger than I thought it was. And I decided that I want to help, you know, provide content for the community, especially seeing Transformers lore itself. A lot of the fandom doesn't really know what happens in Transformers. I would even say most of them, who are serious fans, actually only just collect the toys. So I decided to make a series explaining all the nuances of the Transformers multiverse that a lot of people really don't know about. But first I decided I was going to build up my audience by doing games, and that's where the games come from, but eventually I did start releasing Transformers lore. I still do games though, like sporadically. I intend to add more games. I intend to start that back up again, but those are going to be put on my second channel, Primus Prime, so check that out if you haven't already. Are you a toy collector? If so, of what? I have a Transformers collection, but that's because they're mostly figures that I got from my childhood and played with. I generally don't like the idea of, like, you know, grown men just, like, collecting these toys and, like, just putting them on a shelf, you know, complaining on forums when the toys aren't good enough when they're intended for, you know, a children audience. So, yeah, generally I'm sort of against, like, you know, toy collecting from, like, adults, but, you know, it's not like a serious crime or anything. I'm not passionate against. I'm not passionate against it, you know. What I do collect is comics. I read those. Again, I don't believe in, like, you know, buying one certain issue and, like, framing it and then never touching it. I read them, but I, you know, collect them. I used to collect the IDW stuff in print. I usually buy comics digitally first, and then I buy them in print if I really like them. And I tried to collect the whole IDW universe, but then they announced all the G.I. Joe stuff came out, so I just gave up, because a lot of the, you know, trades for G.I. Joe are out of print by now. I also have a good bit of New 52 and DC Comics books in trade, and some Moon Knight. I also collect history books that I read, because, you know, I'm trying to be a history teacher, and it's important to have content knowledge. But yeah, I do like my history books. Can I help you make more Transformers lore episodes, and how? Well, a way to help the channel is, you know, just support it. Like, share, subscribe. Sharing videos across, you know, the fandom really helps. I'm not really a fan of self-promotion on other platforms that aren't, you know, mine. Like, I don't go to forums and hey, check out my video. I believe that the best way to, you know, build a good audience is to make good videos, and then the audience by themselves will spread the word of how good this channel is, and that way I can be proud in my growth, you know? But yeah, just, you know, spreading the word, commenting, you know, giving some constructive criticism, because, you know, it's really hard to tell the difference between, like, a hate comment and actual criticism. It really depends on how it's worded, to be honest. But, you know, YouTubers tend to, like, you know, drown out the hate comments. Like, just ignore them, because if you let every hate comment bother you, you're going to go insane. But sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between criticism and hate comments. So good constructive criticism that I sometimes get on the channel, that I recognize that are not hate comments, I really appreciate. Yeah, just watching my videos, you know, being a fan, supporting my projects, stuff like that. I don't have a Patreon. I'm not going to ever have a Patreon for the purpose of this channel. Nor am I ever going to ask you to donate anything. You know, I get my money from ads. But, you know, yeah, like, subscribe, spread the word. That really helps the channel grow. And to be patient with my really weird random upload schedules. Following me on Twitter helps if you want to see, like, updates on the channel and stuff. Though be aware that half the time there are just memes posted on Twitter. I tweet a lot more than I should. But so if you can deal with that, you can see updates there. I also have a Discord server and a subreddit if you ever want to join in on the conversation. The subreddit's generally dead. Levi Church is actually part of it, and I appreciate that. But yeah, you know, spread the word, build a community. There's only so much I can say about that. And, you know, I appreciate it. So that's going to wrap up today's Q&A. There's not going to be much uploads until the super big insane project gets released. I do have a Transformers lore corrections episode and a little different video coming up that I might release some point between now and August, in between while I'm working on the super big project, so keep an eye out for those. But for now, just hold tight. A big video's coming. I might do some streaming, but I'm also looking into ways to improve my Wi-Fi for that. But keep an eye out for that. Gaming videos might pop up on my second channel more often. And yeah, that's going to wrap up, I think, everything I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you like. Follow me on social media for updates. Join the subreddit for more discussion on Transformers lore, and the the Discord to join the community. And yeah, have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.